You can be turning to the book of Revelation if you want. We're now moving on. We're in to study number 7, 6,000 years of Babylon. But we're leaving Nebuchadnezzar now. That passed away. That wasn't the real one, was it? It was the real at the time. Nebuchadnezzar was the Antichrist of the time, just like Nimrod was. Just like Hitler was in his time. They're all Antichrist. It's just that God's saying, no, they're not the real one. Prophecy's cyclic, isn't it? Good and bad. There's always saviours, there's always deliverers, there's always revivals, there's always antichrists. And so we're leaving that now, and that disappeared, and it's taken another couple of thousand years, 2,500 years since Nebuchadnezzar till now. And I've called this study Babylon Now, because it's important we know where we're up to. Now, I found this study the hardest one. I'm not confident at all in this study, only because I've got to sort of give you facts and figures. I've got to try and say where we are now in the world and who's capable for that. How many preachers have you heard prophesy at the millennium bug, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and they've got egg on their face? Well, I don't like egg on my face. And so I'm determined not to prophesy, because you don't need to, do you? And so that's very difficult, because we all have our little pet theories and our little ideas of what's going to happen. But I'm hoping that I can just provoke your thoughts, and maybe we can find out, maybe the things that I don't say will be provoked by what I do say, so you'll get a picture yourself. But we're moving into the book of Revelation. That's our key. So, from Nebuchadnezzar, it was about 500 years later when Jesus was born. Now we know from reading about the fall of Babylon and from Daniel, do you remember that there's a stone that's made without hands that's going to smash the statue? And it doesn't go for the head, which we would. When you get a big statue, you'd want to get the head to kill it. The stone actually hits the feet. And then the whole statue falls down, because the statue's still standing. Nebuchadnezzar is still living, because it's the spirit, he's the head controlling it, the Antichrist spirit. And it passed through the different empires. We'll look at them again tonight. And we're now in the toes of clay and iron, aren't we? Strange mixture. The metals were getting more brittle, weren't they? From gold, silver, brass, iron. Cast iron, you can't get anything more brittle. And yet it's mixed with clay, and you can't get anything more malleable. Strange bedfellows, really, aren't they, to be mixed together? And the truth is they don't mix, but somehow they're there together. And we can see it in the world, can't we? Absolute military, evil dictators ruling with rods of iron, and yet you've got other countries that's weak and immorally decadent. They mix together, aren't they? In this, it's a strange mixture at the moment. But 500 years after Nebuchadnezzar, Jesus was born, and this was the stone was born that was going to smash the feet. Maybe that's when Jesus has to come again and smash the feet, because he's the stone. So that might be a key there for you to think about for the next few weeks. The stone is going to come and smash Babylon, isn't it? Who's the stone? Cut out without hands. So the stone was born already. The beginning of the end of Babylon started with Jesus, if he's the stone that's going to break it. And then John, About 90 years after Jesus' birth, one of the oldest disciples, that they believe, maybe he was 100 years old, I don't know, they say that many had the visions of Revelation, he was perhaps 90 years old. So that was already after AD 70, when Jerusalem had fallen. So John already knew about persecution, didn't he? That's my point. When John wrote the letters to the churches, he already knew about the persecution of the Jews. The blood had already run in Jerusalem. And God said to John through the angel, I'm going to show you things which must shortly come to pass. So I don't believe there's any history in the book of Revelation. I believe it's all the future from John, from Jesus' time. I'll show you things which must shortly come to pass. It was the beginning of the last days, wasn't it, the Acts of the Apostles? Peter claimed that these are the days that were spoken of Joel. These are the last days. We're now in the last of the last days. The last days started with the Acts of the Apostles. And John had to warn the church. Now, how old was the church? It was only... If it started when Jesus died and Jesus was 33, and now it was AD, 90, we're just talking about 40, 50 years the church has been going. And yet John had to write to the churches and tell them about the infiltration of Babylon. Because that's what the letters to the churches are, aren't they? All the letters to the churches are really dealing with the infiltration of Babylon. After 40 years, Babylon was already in the church. Because he says you've lost your first love. Well, if you've let Babylon in, haven't you? And all the letters are really to deal with Babylon. You've let that Jezebel spirit in. You've let the doctrine of Balaam, the greedy way of Balaam, that people are using the gifts of the spirits to make money. They love the rewards of the gifts. That's Babylon, trading with the souls of men. And so straight away, in the early church, it was already infiltrated with Babylon. And John had to write the letters and say. Amazing, isn't it? The church has been in Babylon ever since before the letters to the churches, or else John wouldn't have to write the letters. And the church has been in Babylon ever since. That's why the time is to come out now in the last days. And why John had to warn the church then, because Jesus could have come, couldn't he? He says, those that are alive and remain, he was thinking he'd be one of them. He says, we'll be caught up with the Lord. They'd already gone into all the world, by AD 90. They were in Britain. They were all over the known world. The historians have covered it up, and said that St. Augustus brought Christianity to Great Britain. That's a lie. He brought Roman Catholicism and Babylon to Britain. We were already converted before the Romans. The apostles went all over the world as they were told to do. They obeyed the commission. But the trouble is, by 90 years had happened, it was in Babylon. And we got converted to Babylon by Augustus, not Christianity. That's the truth. So, 2003, Babylon's coming to its fullness again, isn't it? The final deception. The one world system is finally arriving, I believe. We saw how close Nebuchadnezzar was, didn't we? If he had the tagging system, he would have had it, but the best he could do was bring representatives from all the known world, 127 provinces. But he forced worship. Bow or burn. He forced it. And now we're getting close to where it could happen. The whole world has been seduced by Babylon, Revelation says. And it says through your sorceries. We'll look at it more at the downfall of Babylon. But it says by your sorceries. I've explained that word, haven't I? If you look at Strong's Concordance, sorcery, in many instances of the Bible, means witchcraft, magic. But you know the word used here in Revelation? Pharmakia. Pharmacy. You know what pharmacy is, don't you? Drugstore. It's a drugstore. Pharmakia. It says all the world have been seduced by your sorceries through drugs. Now isn't that amazing that it uses that Greek word for drugs that we get pharmacy from? And we can see now how the drug culture, the Violence, arts, music, politics, religion are all coming together as one for this one world system. So we're going to see where we are now. Turn to Revelation. Let's read something from it. Revelation 17. It starts off, one of the angels came to me and says, I'll show you the judgment of the great whore. Well, we're not looking at the judgment this week. But he says, the kings of the earth have committed fornication. So the kings are not Babylon, are they? Because the kings are the ones who who are being seduced by the whore, all right. Verse 3, he carried me away in the wilderness, spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman. Well, we know that Babylon is a woman, don't we? Just like Jerusalem is a woman, the bride. There's the bride that's pure, and New Jerusalem, the city. There's the prostitute, and which is a woman. And there's the city, Babylon. And I saw a woman sit on a scarlet-coloured beast, full of names of blasphemy. That's the beast, not the woman. Full of the names of blasphemy. That's a woman. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, that's the beast. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colour, decked with gold and precious stones. Sounds like the tabernacle, this, doesn't it? Religious, you see. Godly colours, purple, scarlet, precious stones. Pearls. The New Jerusalem, all the gates are pearls. Can you see the ante here? It's and in her cup full of abominations and filthiness. And upon her head was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Verse 7, the angel said, don't why you're marvelling. I'll tell you the mystery of the woman. He's trying to explain it to us, you know. It's funny. It's not called a book of mystery, is it? The last book in the Bible. It's called a book of Revelation. Why should it be a mystery when it's called Revelation? It's crazy, isn't it? There's something wrong with our understanding. And he says, look, I'll tell you the mystery. It shouldn't be a mystery, should it? If the angel said to you, look, I'll tell you the mystery. I know it's a funny picture, but I will tell you what it means. So it should be easy, shouldn't it? I'll tell you the mystery of the woman, of the beast, and the beast that carried her. Now, all I want to try and show you in this little part is the difference between the woman and the beast. Now, that's difficult. Because the picture is of a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, so it's some sort of a monster. But the woman is riding the beast. She's sat on the beast, right? Now, the beast isn't Babylon, is it? Because the woman is Babylon, it tells us. So the woman, Babylon, is actually sat on a beast. Can you understand? This is the picture. And he says, I'll explain what it is. Now, it's very difficult to separate them. Do you know why? I'll give you an illustration. Little Maurice Barratt sat in a motor car. Who's in control? Yeah, but I can't go anywhere without the motor car. The car has the power. I've got none. I can only sit on my bum. You see, you need each other. I can sit there and I can control the car, but I haven't got any power. If there's no petrol in the car, I can't control anything. So I need the power of the car so that I can drive where I want. But the car's driving me. I'm not driving the car. I'm sat in it. It's driving me. Do you see how it is? It's like the chicken and the egg. It's difficult to separate, isn't it? Because they're working together. So I'm in control. I decide where I want to go. And I think I'm in control. But really, the car's got all the power. I've got none. All right, do you see the analogy? So the woman sat on the beast. Now, who's controlling who? Where does the power come from? The power can't come from the woman, can it? Because she's only sat on it. So the woman is sat on the beast, and the woman thinks she's in control, but really she's been taken for a ride. The beast isn't a motor car, the beast can think. Do you understand? So who's taking who for a ride? And you'll find out that the 10 kings that the beast give power to actually destroy the woman. I don't think the beast intended it, because he gives them power and then they take it in their own hands. Why? It says because God has put it in the heart not the beast. No, it doesn't say the beast has put it in the heart. It says because God has put it in these 10 kings to burn Babylon with fire, not the beast. He gets caught out. See, the devil always gets caught out, doesn't he? So it's a bit tricky, isn't it? Can you see how difficult it is? But that should help you. I believe the woman is what I said, Babylon, the system of seduction, the means to seduce by religion, by wealth, by commerce, by politics, by culture, by drugs, by music. These are all means to control people. With music you can control people. With drugs you can control people. With politics you can control people. With finance you can control people. And so Babylon is a system. It's like the world. It doesn't exist. It's a way of controlling. But obviously it's got a physical manifestation. Because covetousness is spiritual. But covetousness comes out in adultery. Adultery is really only covetousness. I want a woman that's not mine. I end up sleeping with her. But the sin wasn't adultery, it was covetousness. I wanted what wasn't mine. Stealing really is only covetousness. It ends up as taking something and stealing. But really it's covetousness, it's a spiritual sin. I want that. It's not mine, I'll smash the window and get it because I want it. But stealing wasn't the sin. Stealing is only the consequences of the sin. The sin is covetousness. Because the root of all sin is covetousness. The love of money is the root of all evil. But it's manifest physically. Do you understand? Every sin is spiritual, not physical. The physical is only the manifestation, how you work it out. Because you can't satisfy your spirit unless you do something physical. Because I'm a physical person. I satisfy it through gluttony, through perverted sex, through stealing, through anything. But I've got to satisfy what's inside me, good or bad. You can't satisfy the good things in you. You can't satisfy God in you without physical manifestation, can you? If you love God, there'll be a physical manifestation towards you love your brother. You'll die for him, never mind love him. Because we don't know what love is. Should I say you'll die for him? That's better, because we think it means shaking his hand and say, I love you with the love of the Lord. Hate your guts, really, but it means you'll die for him because Christ died for us. That's love, you see. Love gives. So there'll be a manifestation. And I think Babylon is that manifestation of covetousness, of seduction. The beast, let's just read a bit about the beast. Verse 8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on earth shall wonder whose names were not written in the book of life. Verse 9, here's a mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads that the monster had are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. So the woman sat on the beast, and she sat on the heads of the beast, because there's 7 mountains. And it talks about the kings. And the 10 horns, verse 12, which thou saw, are 10 kings. So these are literal going to be 10 kings, aren't they? 10 rulers, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive their power as kings 1 hour with the beast. They're only going to get a short time. The beast's going to give them power. Now these 10 kings are the one who'll destroy Babylon, we'll see, in the fall of Babylon. So it's just a political story. We don't have to spiritualize it. It's telling us what will happen. These 10 powers will take it in their hand to destroy the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength to the beast. And chapter 18. Is it chapter 18? No, 13. Chapter 13. Verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number's 666, but it doesn't matter what his number is. The key is a man. Most people miss that. They're wondering what 666 means. But he says, let him have understanding. It's the number of a man. So the beast is personified in a man. There again, I believe that the beast is the occult system. These are spiritual things. I believe the beast is these occult powers the spirit of Antichrist that's ruling in the world, there again is going to be manifest and personified in a man, the Antichrist. So it's like the occult, like the people, I don't know if you realise how much the occult rule politics and rule culture and rules music, but at the top of all those spheres, you've got witchcraft and you've got the occult and you've got the Masons and Druids. Very, very powerful supernatural magic that are controlling the world. And this is the system of the beast. And they're trying to control the woman. They're trying to control the finance and use Babylon, because Babylon's on the back of it. And they're using it. They're using religion and worship and all these things for their own ends. But it's a supernatural occult thing. And it's manifest in the man, the Antichrist. The beast, it's the number of a man. Because there's always a personification, isn't there? Spirit's always manifest. God was manifest in the flesh. He became a man. Even God was manifest, personified, wasn't he? It's always that way. That spirit always wants to manifest. That's why demons want to get in people. And when they're getting cast out, they say, well, can we go in the pigs? They'd rather go anywhere. They'd rather get in a cat. I've seen a demon cast out and I've seen a cat run about 1,000 miles an hour out of a church screaming. Demons just want to get in flesh. They're no good floating around, are they? They want to possess people. God does. And the Antichrist spirit wants to manifest himself in a man. The devil wants to manifest himself in a man just like God. He wants an Antichrist. Somebody who can be the son of Satan instead of the son of God. But where's the woman now? Where's Babylon now? Because we're looking at Babylon, aren't we? Not the beast. We look at that because the 10 kings of the beast is going to burn her with fire. Well, what about the physical manifestation of a place? Because Jerusalem was in a place, wasn't it? Still is. Babylon was in a place in Mesopotamia. Well, in Nebuchadnezzar's day, where was the headquarters of Babylon? Well, in Babylon, of course, because that started it. Then we got the Medes and the Persians. Another empire took over. Where were the headquarters? Well, they were still in Babylon. Then we got the Greek Empire. Now, the Greeks were a bit further away. The strange thing is that Alexander the Greek settled in Babylon, died in Babylon. Alexander the Greek brought 10,000 men to rebuild ancient Babylon, the temple and everything. Never moved until we got Rome. Now, the headquarters of Rome wasn't Babylon, was it? It was Rome in Italy. And Babylon got transferred to Europe because the headquarters of Babylon was in Rome. And that was the fourth part of the statue, wasn't it? The legs of iron. Split into two. You got east and west, didn't you? The west from Rome and the east from Constantinople. What was it named before? Byzantine, was it? Constantinople. And you'll find out that Babylon is now in Europe. It's never left. Because Rome is in Europe. And you got the physical Roman political system, didn't you? That ruled with a rod of iron. And what took over from that? The Roman Church. If you go to 800 AD, you get Charlemagne. You've all heard of Charlemagne. I'm picking out the most popular ones. Surely you've heard of him. Now, he traces his lineage back to the ancient house of Troy. It's a statue Greek. Anything that's the statue is Babylon, isn't it? And Charlemagne traced his heritage back to Troy, which is Greek. But Charlemagne was a German. And from Rome it moved to Germany. The headquarters of Babylon isn't Rome, as people think. It's Germany. That's what I believe. And Charlemagne was the first one to be called the Emperor of Rome. Do you know what's on his seal? Charlemagne, do you know what he had written on his seal? I don't speak Italian or Latin or whatever it is. Renovatio Romani Imperii. That means renewal of the Roman Empire. That's what was written on his seal. Amazing, isn't it? renewal of the Roman... They knew what they were doing. It was the renewal of the Roman Empire. Napoleon, well, he was from France. He tried to revive it, didn't he? Hitler, he was German, Austrian. All these places have been moved about, haven't they? There was no Belgium at one time, and parts of Holland were Germany, and parts of Bavaria and Austria, but Hitler was Austrian. Do you know that he preached in Nuremberg? I'll show you the picture on a replica of the seat of Satan. Pergamon temple from Pergamos. You know in the book, in Revelation, where it says you're to the church in Pergamos, you are where Satan's seat is. Where they used to do the human sacrifices. Everyone who wouldn't bow to the gods, they used to sacrifice them. I'll show you where it is now, that seat of Satan. But Hitler replicated one, and he put it in Nuremberg, and that's where he preached about the final solution of the Jews. Amazing, isn't it? Came all the way across. And if you think, we've looked how Babylon's gone west, 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 and I suppose America has propagated Babylon more than anyone else. But you must remember that America was only populated from Europe. Could have been populated from anywhere, but it was populated from Babylon. Do you know the single greatest nation that populated America? I'm saying single nation because if you count England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, then Great Britain were the biggest. But I'm talking about single countries. Germany. That's interesting, isn't it? And the occult centre of America comes from, if you know anything about the Illuminati and the occult, they trace it back to England and to Europe. If you look at the $1 bill and you look at the pyramid and the date on it, what's the date of it? 1st of May, isn't it? 1776. That wasn't the date of the state of America. It was the date of the beginnings of the Illuminati. Do you know who started? A man called Adam Weishaupt. Where was he from? Germany, Bavaria. He was hired by the Rothschilds, the banking dynasty, to set up an organisation. Because the Rothschilds are not American, they're European. They were the banking dynasty of Europe that financed all the wars in Europe. One of them was in Holland, one was in Germany, one was in Manchester, would you believe it? Nathan Rothschild was in Manchester. It was his goal that financed the Russian Revolution. His gold sailed from Plymouth. It's in the history books now, it was all hidden at the time, but if you want to delve, it's documented. Nathan Rothschild's gold sailed from Plymouth to fund... Because all revolutions by the peasants are funded by the capitalists. I don't know if you know. All revolutions are funded by the capitalists. So who's behind them? Not the peasants. Control. I don't want to go into all that. The Statue of Liberty. I meant to bring a quote from reading it. But you know, the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France. After the French Revolution, it was another financed war. The Enlightenment came from Europe, didn't it? The Enlightenment. The Illuminati means illumination. Because the devil comes as an angel of light, doesn't he? So that's what it means, Illuminati. Illumination. The Statue of Liberty, you know what the real quote of it is? Liberty enlightening the world. That's what the Statue of Liberty said. Enlightening the world. It's this occult thing. She's dressed in a Roman toga. I wonder why. Babylon. Do you know how Europe got its name? Well, what was Europe called a few hundred years ago, do you know? It was called Christendom. It wasn't always called Europe, you know. Because it's the name of a collection of countries, isn't it? You can go back thousands of years, can't you, with Germany and Austria, Bavaria, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Greece. All those countries, you go back hundreds, thousands of years. But collectively, it was known as Christendom. Because it was under the Holy Roman Empire. It was Babylon was called Christendom. Because the church brought Babylon in, didn't it? And flooded the world with it. And so it's called Christendom. It's called Europe now. Do you know where they get the name Europe from? You should know these things. You're in Europe. It's not a history lesson. It's very difficult for me, these studies, because I'm not a historian or an intellectual, and you've just got to gather bits of information, and it's easy to get shot down, isn't it? By leaving some out, so on. But you do your own research. It's from a myth, the rape of Europa. Europa was supposed to be a beautiful Phoenician girl. Phoenicia, in Israel really, Phoenicia in those days. And the Greek god Zeus looked and spied her and lusted after her. So he changed himself into a bull, a white bull. And came down on the seashore and seduced her, raped her, whatever you want. And she rode on his back into the sea. That's and she was called Europa. That was a woman's name, Europa. And so they've called this group of countries Europa after the woman who was raped by the beast. Have you got the picture? That's what Europe's called. It's called after this woman who was raped by a bull, by the beast. Let me show you some acetates. That's a painting by a European painter, Bruegel. Okay. And that's his picture of the unfinished Tower of Babel. You know, that's obviously, I don't suppose it looked like that, but that was his impression of the ancient Tower of Babel that they left to build and was never finished. Okay. Well, now in Europe, in Strasbourg, you know, the centre of the European community, in Strasbourg, I think in 2000, they finished a building that was based on the Tower of Babel. That's the tower, that's the building there, that looks like it's not finished, but it's actually finished. But they've made it an finished building, and they have based it on the Tower of Babel, and they say they know what they're doing. They've not done it ignorantly. They say what Babylon failed to do, we will finish. These are the people in the European government. It's documented. If you go and ask your MP about it, why is the building like that unfinished and that? They say it's based... Surely you've seen the posters. Have you not seen it? The poster like that. And it's got on it, many people, one voice. That's the poster for Europe when they started. Many people, one voice. That sounds like Babylon, doesn't it? And so that's the building in Strasbourg now based on it. And at the bottom of the building, at the entrance, I don't know if you can see it, there's a sculpture of a woman riding a bull. Can you see it? It's not very plain, because it's a sculpture, but that's a woman riding on the back of a beast, the back of a bull. And that's at the bottom of that building. Because it's the myth of Europa, you see. Because they say, we're Europe now, we're all Europe. So they're showing you where they got it from, the woman riding the beast. So you make your own mind up. I'm only showing you some slides. I've not painted those. That's the Pergamus Temple. And that was taken stone by stone to Germany, to Berlin. And that's in the Berlin Pergamus Museum in Berlin now. You can go to Berlin and see it, and they took it stone by stone, and it's in the Berlin Museum. Why would they want to bring this? And I think it was Kaiser, one of the Kaisers, who brought it, and he said that was his greatest achievement of his whole career, to set up Satan's seat. That's where they did the sacrifices. And that's a replica, or Hitler made a replica of that and put it in Nuremberg and preached about the final solution to destroy all God's people, the Jews. So there's plenty, you think about it yourself, but there's plenty of evidence, surely, that Babylon now has moved to Europe, the headquarters. Because it's a spiritual thing, it's not a literal. Babylon's still there, isn't it? Saddam Hussein's trying to build it physically. But spiritually, it's moved to Europe. We're part of it. That's the Ishtar Gate from Babylon. Again, moved stone by stone. I think it's got 322 dragon gods on it. Can you see them? They call that the gateway to hell. The Ashtar Gate. Well, that's in the museum as well. So it's funny, isn't it? Because not only spiritually, not only mythically, but physically they're actually moving it there. Well, that's something for you to think about. So Babylon now, let's just look at a few of the areas. I've got A to H, I don't know, I'm at 7 or 8. Politics. Where are we now? Well, the world's slowly becoming more democratic, isn't it? The problem is, I couldn't find who quoted it, I read it a while ago. I think it was Aristotle, or one of the Greek philosophers who coined up the word democracy. But he said the more democratic we become, the more prone we are to dictatorship. Think about it. The world's got to be truly democratic to get a one-world dictator. And so communism was engineered as part of the process, power to the people. It had to go from one dictator, from kings and dictators. Power had to go to the people to get democracy. It's part of the devilish plan. And communism was only part of the plan. What we've got now is worse than communism. What you're in now is worse than communism, because you think you've got more rights and you're losing them day by day. You've never been in such a con, and most Christians don't even know it. Every day we're getting more rights and more rights. But it's all an illusion. You're actually losing your rights. The country has lost all its rights by getting more rights. We can't even make laws now unless they agree with Europe. If any of our laws that our government make contravene the European law, you can take your country to court. And people have done it. People have taken our country to court and got it reversed by Strasbourg, haven't they? Court for human rights. Human rights. It's the biggest con ever. You see, the more democratic we become, the more prone we are to dictatorship. Remember that phrase. Because the world are deceived by it, all these rights. It's a preparation for a world takeover. Finance. I've already said that wars, revolutions funded by capitalists. Do you remember the crash in Asia? Not long ago. I explained that money now is an illusion. There's no such thing in the sense that there's no gold to back it up. There's no collateral behind any of the world's money now. Fort Knox is empty. We haven't got any gold in England. We put it all into the euros, didn't we? And so all the world's money is based on trust. That's so they can bring it down whenever they want. And they collapsed it in the Asia basin, didn't they? All Malaysia and all those multimillionaires were killing themselves because they had to get a job as a dustman. It was in the news. But that was engineered. They're still going, those countries, aren't they? They didn't collapse, did they? Isn't it funny they didn't collapse? Do you know what they did? They borrowed billions of pounds for the International Monetary Fund. And they're there to lend money with conditions. And the conditions is that you change your politics and become more democratic. That's the key. They borrow the money, and then after a few years they say, right, you've got to implement the policies now. And that's what the International Monetary Fund are doing. Collapsing countries, bailing them out with conditions that they have to become more democratic. The whole world has got to become a democracy, a one world, for a one world dictator. Democracy is the way to dictatorship. And I think that was Aristotle who said it when they first made it up. He actually realised what they were doing. Isn't it amazing? I printed out the currency rates today because I go to Europe, different countries, and sometimes I have to bring euros and that. They send it me every day in an email. Most days I don't look at it, the currency rates. But I printed it out today, and it's amazing that the euro against the pound, the euro is about 1.62. The dollar is about 1.63. It's amazing how the dollar and euro have now got parity. They've come into line. You look at all, I've got a list, I meant to bring it to pass round after, but you look at all the world's currencies, and against the pound, some are 7 to the pound Indian rupees, and some are 5,000 to the pound, and they're all miles away. But the euro and the dollar are nearly coming together now. It's very significant now. The money is out of government's hands now. Do you remember when the Americans brought in the Federal Reserve Act? Well, that took all America's money out of the voters' hands. The Federal Reserve are unaccountable to the government. Do you know that? It's out of the voters' hands. They can't vote the people in or out, the Federal Reserve. They could tell America what they can print and what they can't print, and nobody has any control over them. It's out of the US voters' hands now. The control is passing more and more into the financiers of the world. What I said was right. It seems strange that Babylon is a system of money, but the love of money is the root of all evil. The Bible tells us it's the key to control. Because the Antichrist is going to force worship because you won't buy or sell. It's the lack of money that will do it. Money or the lack of it is the same thing. Money is power, the lack of it is power. And it says you won't buy or sell because they'll control the wealth. Babylon has to make a system. It's taken thousands of years for Babylon to get a system of money that can control not only you and I, but governments and world systems. It's amazing. It's planned. It's planned. Commerce. Well, it's coming together. China now is in the World Trade Centre, isn't it? Amazing that China's joined the World Trade. Massive block, isn't it? 1 in 5 people in the world's Chinese. And now they're in the World Trade. Canada and USA are in trade blocks. Europe is the world's biggest now, isn't it? Bigger than America. We've got 50 million, haven't we, or whatever, in Europe. It's coming together. Law. We've not only got European law, we've got international law. We've now got world laws. We're thinking of setting up a world justice system, America, aren't they? A world court. We're getting very close to it, when you get world courts, things like that. And laws. Culture. It's nearly completed round the world, isn't it? India's now got Bollywood, and just as Hollywood corrupted all the West, Bollywood's turning out thousands of films. Amazing. If you get McDonald's in Beijing, it's as I say, it's the, I suppose, the epitome, isn't it, of our culture, fast food. I want it and I want it now. It's only symbolic, but it's there, it's infiltrating. Violence, worldwide now, as in the days of Noah, so it will be. Violence covered, it's everywhere. Violence isn't only now in New York, muggings, is it? It's in nice, respectable districts, because the drug culture has brought violence to respectable people. You've got MP's sons on drugs. You've got wealthy people, and they live in massive houses, in big estates, but you see the kids are on drugs, and the drug culture brings violence. Violence is everywhere. Lifestyle. The gay lifestyle is spreading worldwide. It's unbelievable, isn't it? The pop music's done a big, pushed it tremendously. I don't know anything more than music that's pushed the gay lifestyle. I don't want to go into it, but the music has played a big part. Because music preaches doctrine more than anything else, in church and out of it. People like Tom Robinson, do you remember in the Sing If You're Glad to Be Gay, Sing If You're Happy That Way? They were singing it blatantly in the 80s. Nobody did anything about it. But it tuned the kids in, you see. Proud to be gay. And it spread sexual perversion. So now it's acceptable. Now it's acceptable and normal. Because it's famous people that make it acceptable. Joe Soap doesn't. It's famous people who come out and declare it. And the music business has fostered that. The people, did you know that the Beatles manager was gay? Brian Epstein, did you know? He was a homosexual. The Rolling Stones, did you know the Rolling Stones, Andrew Loog Oldham? Did you know he was gay? The music and the drug culture have produced these decadent lifestyles. Entertainment as well, Hollywood, acting, they've promoted it, haven't they? Music, culture. I won't go into it anymore. There's obviously Alex and I are involved with music and culture because we've come from that. You should read Alex's book, Let Me Advertise It, Playing with Fire. The use and abuse of music. Because Alex talks a lot about culture, that often it's a fashion statement is really a statement of status, really. God gave us clothes to keep warm and cover our nakedness. We wear clothes to make a statement. I'm cool. I wear designer stuff. I'm this. And we wear clothes to make a statement about ourselves that's always false. Because a man wears a suit because he's a businessman, but he's not a businessman. He's just dressed up. That's all we are. And somebody else says this, I'm a fashion model but they're not really at all. Nobody's a fashion model. Nobody's a businessman. They're just sinners, saved by grace, or going to the lake of fire. It's all an illusion, you see. It's statements. That's not what clothes were for. They were to keep us warm and cover our nakedness, not make fashion statements. But this is culture, you see. Like no, the imaginations of only the heart's evil continually. The pursuit of pleasure, hedonistic society, aren't we? Lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. Religion, my last one. It's always political religion. It can't be anything else because religion is a way of controlling people. Isn't it? Whether it's signing the pledge, whether it's paying your tithes, whatever it is, it's a way of controlling people. You're in our club. And controlling people is politics. We're an organism, not an organisation. We're a living body of Christ's people. You are the church. You don't belong to a church. You are the church. You can't go to church. You are it. And although you know that, and you say, well, yeah, the church isn't a building, you still say, I'm going to church. You can't get out of it. We're so locked into it, aren't we? We are the church. It's us. Whenever you meet with Christians, that's church. Whenever you go in somebody's home and say, let's have a prayer, that's church. When you're having fellowship, talking about God, that's church. It's a living thing. It's not a club you go to once a week, is it? You see, religion always seeks, as politics does, to establish an order. And it's wrong even if it's God's order. Because you can't establish God's order in this present age because the kingdom of God is within us. It's one man and he's God. It's your personal relationship with God. There's no such thing as a corporate relationship. That's as silly as saying there's a corporate anointing and all these stupid things. Where's the corporate anointing in the Bible? Where do they get these phrases from? Corporate anointing. I don't remember a prophet pouring oil over 50 people at a time, do you? Where do they get it from? I don't know where they get it from. It's a personal relationship with God, not a corporate relationship with God. It's personal, isn't it? My sheep know my voice. We'll listen to anyone but God, won't we? Yeah. Any wandering prophet, any book we read, anything that's a bit juicy and interesting. We're supposed to hear God, not the preacher. If God speaks through the preacher, that's great. But don't rely on the preacher, will you? It's God you need to hear. So we're getting ready to the one world faith, aren't we? I don't believe it's Islam. David Pawson preached some good tapes forecasting that he said God told him that Britain would become Islam within 10 years. And you know, that's absolutely right if the trend continues, because they're the fastest growing, aren't they? They've got 2 million Muslims in Great Britain. There's 2 million evangelicals in Great Britain. We're closing churches down there, building 2 mosques a week. they're radical, we're not. So that there's no doubt about it. In a few years, we'll become Islamic if nothing happens, if a revival doesn't happen. That's just a fact. People know that. Non-Christians know that, who've got their heads screwed on. But I don't think Islam will be the one world religion. Islam could be the bull that rapes the woman. Islam wants to burn Babylon. One Muslim in America, a little kid, said to him, "Where are you from, mister?" He said, "I was born here in Babylon." And then started to pull the West down. That's what the Muslim said, "I was born here in Babylon." They want to burn the West with fire, you know. The Muslims, did you know that? They want to destroy and bring down the West. I won't say any more than that. But the one world religion won't be Islam, it'll be Hinduism. Hitler really was Hindu religion, the Aryan races, the pure races, the caste system. Any god you want, 33 million gods. It won't be the one God Allah, the one world religion. God will use, maybe those are the 10 kings that's going to destroy Babylon. And Hinduism will come on the back of it. But Hitler really brought Hinduism. He exported, he brought so many hundred Tibetan monks, did you know, Hitler, to Germany? The ascended masters. You know what Gorbachev said? Gorbachev's the man who introduced communism to the West, really, helped to bring it down. I read his book, Perestroika. He wasn't a communist, he was a New Ager. And do you know what he said in his book? He says, what we need is to bring the thinking and culture of India to Russia. Now, why would he say that? Hinduism. Because that's New Age. It's Hinduism. It's, well, Antichrist not manifest as a man yet, has he? So we can't go any further. I believe Hitler was the last example of the Antichrist, the spirit of the beast in a man. He set himself up, didn't he, in Berlin, in the Reichstag building. Did you know they've just repaired that again? Do you know when East and West Germany came together? West Germany, the capital, was in Bonn, wasn't it? But now they've moved the capital back to Berlin. Strange, isn't it? That's where the Pergamon temple is. That's where Hitler set up. And they've just renovated and rebuilt the building, the Reichstag building, that Hitler had his government from. It's empty there, waiting for them to move the centre to it. It's strange because you've got Strasbourg and Brussels, haven't you? It's just waiting for Germany to get the control. Again. So I'm going to leave it there. As I say, it was a difficult study because I'm just giving you information about where we're at now. And we can carry on now next week. We'll look at the beast and the false prophet. And then we'll look at the downfall of Babylon. We need to see how it's destroyed, don't we? How the stone comes and smashes it. And then we can move on to what shall we do about it. Because we're in fearful days. I'm not just wanting to give you facts to scare you, although they should. I'm not wanting to worry you, although you should be worried. I'm only doing the studies for one purpose, to motivate us, to intercede to get the church out of Babylon. And England maybe is the key to Europe. England saved Europe many times. England saved Europe from Hitler. We've saved Europe from Germany many times. And maybe with a key. Maybe Great Britain is the key. We've not gone in the Euro yet. Maybe there's a little chance. There's a reason for it, isn't there? Maybe Britain's here for such a time as this. Great Britain was the first Christian nation. Did you know that? First nation to embrace Christianity after the early church. You don't really know your history. You've been deceived. At school they told you about the Romans, and we don't go past that, do we? There's thousands of chronicles of pre-Roman history of England that the modernists have hidden from us. We were the first Christian nation. I'll tell you the references if you want to study it. But let me pray now. Lord, we're living in momentous days. Lord, we don't really know how we should be. People seem so complacent, so deluded, Lord, going along with the flow. Having celebration meetings and trying to save the world. Lord, I pray you'll help us that we'll be the remnant, that go back and build Jerusalem, that rebuild the walls. Lord, not the natural walls, but the bride that comes down from heaven, the new Jerusalem. Lord, birth something in us even this week that will prepare us for intercession, for paying the price, that maybe we could even save our country. Lord, it's been done before. Help us, Father. Amen.